Hi, Kevin A. Davis over here at Ink Pub, and today we're going to have a little discussion with David Horn. David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's kind of hard to say where to start, so I'll try to make it as brief as possible because, as the late great Stan Lee once said, I can't say hello without making a speech. Um, I've been writing for about 50 some years. I've been writing since high school, and I'm 68 this month. And so I'm preparing for retirement. I've been writing all of this time, and I've been saving it all. And only recently did I decide, it can't hurt to get it out there. What's the worst someone can say? No, right? And you've done that to me once, Kevin. So, but it's okay. Um, I love writing. I play the guitar and several other stringed instruments, and I love nature. So as I approach retirement, I want to do all of those things. But in the meantime, real life being what it was, and you and I discussed that briefly, I was in the military for a number of years. I did 9 years active and 21 in the reserve. I did see some interesting things. Um, and then I went into law enforcement getting out because I wanted to go to school and couldn't. Just things happen, right? Real life gets in your way.
Yep.
And then when I decided law enforcement wasn't for me, for reasons I am writing about in my next book, I moved into IT. And I did that because I grew up with computers. I have taught IT classes. And one of the things I tell my students is that I've been doing this so long that I learned it the old fashioned way. I went to work with dad when companies didn't all own their own computers and you had to rent time and learn how to program without a monitor and things like that. So things you might remember like, COBOL, no monitors, so you had cards
Yep.
and things like that. So, and I did that, and then I moved from there into cybersecurity, where I've been for about 20 years now. And so I will be retiring from that, and again moving into writing, making music, and being a friend of nature full time, hopefully. So
Oh,
that's where I'm at.
excellent, excellent. So I had no idea how many, that you've got a lot of these stories sort of backlisted, which is
Mhm.
great. It's great because then you can sort of pick and choose. I tagged you a little bit on Paige's post where she was so
Mhm.
delighted with your story, which is always a pleasure.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and she mentioned that she just loved that, and that was just so awesome, and that's what feels so good.
it does, it does. And so those are some of the, areas where, we can really get some, enjoyment. Um, so, you've got a lot of stories, in the backlist there, right? But are you working on anything presently?
Well, at the moment, I have just published. I'm going to call it my first published novel, called The Glass Child, and it's a science fiction with a horror twist. And then I am currently in the editing phase, so I broke down and hired an editor because I realized I just need one.
Yeah.
And we're working on a horror western there, which I hope to have published in a couple of months. I do self-publish. I use Ingram and I use Amazon, because it's just so wonderfully easy now to do that. And if my idea is I just want to get it out there, uh, then let's do that. And it's okay if some folks don't buy it. If it doesn't, if it's not a runaway bestseller, I'll survive. I have a pension.
Yep.
But I did get a very accomplished editor, uh, and she's looking at it now, and it's called The Red Eaters of Calico Bend. So that's the one that's in progress, and it's about 1850s along the Nevada California border, and it's about broken promises. So, and it's got a Native American uh, aspect to it that I don't want to give away too much right now.
Right.
But I try to stay away from cliched stuff as much as possible. So it's not Bone Tomahawk, which I quite enjoyed. So there's a sick part of me that loved that. And Godless, which is on Netflix. I do recommend both of those. But it's more subtle in the horror. And so I'm hoping to have that out in a couple of months.
Okay.
While she's doing her editing, I am working on something called Ironwood Falls. Ironwood Falls is based on a story of a retired LAPD guy, but like I said, I try to avoid cliches as much as possible. He left law enforcement kind of for the reasons I did. Um, Noticing things like the unfairness in what gets prosecuted and what does not.
Right.
And if I can get away with this, and I probably should have asked you this in the pre-interview. So the deal is that I have a very, very big thing going on here with my head and my heart with missing and murdered Indigenous women, and that's
Yes.
kind of what got me started years ago. Is that there is no doubt that when a pretty white girl goes missing or is killed, that it's a tragedy.
Yep.
But look at what we do with that versus what we do with other ethnic groups and other marginalized groups. So this book is about law enforcement's response to that.
Yep.
And there's an undercurrent of some other, like West type stuff that you would expect. I borrowed a little from Pink Cadillac. I've got a white supremacist group involved. Well, I didn't borrow from that, but that's the first thing we might say. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that part of that plot.
Yep.
But anyway, that's next. And then I have no genre, Kevin. That's just it. I mean, I've had, and thank you very much. You've accepted a few stories from me, and they're different genres,
Yeah.
and it's just so lovely that I get to do that. And so I like everything. I'm one of those people with far too many interests and not near enough time to indulge them all. So I'm going to try to indulge them all, and I hope people like what I'm doing.
Good. Good. Yeah, it's one of those things on genre that, I read a real wide selection, and I recognize that, my readership um sort of has an expectation, you know, um, you know, the that I'm going to follow in vain. I'm working on episode 7 of one of my, more popular and um, profitable series. And I
Mhm.
recognize that there's an expectation that I'm going to give them something out of that or adjacent. Um, and it's important that I maintain that. But one of the things I love about shorts is I can write completely different voices. I mean, just absolutely, you know, farcical, or dark and grim, or something else in a different genre, over here, over there, and it doesn't matter. It's not like I'm burning days and days on this, and it's not going to do anything in my readership because I'm too far off of my genre, so they're just going to not read it. So I love short stories for being that experimental aspect and being able to try something and play. So I totally get not wanting to have a locked in genre, because
And
you really do get there. So beyond your next things that this the next one that are you in a plotting stage in that, or are you in writing stage of that?
for Ironwood Falls,
Yes.
it's a first draft's been completed.
Okay.
Yeah, and so um, it's pretty rough,
Okay.
as most first drafts I would think would be. Writing novels is not something I've done a lot of. I actually have several and drafts of several I've written over the years, but I'm not going to pretend I'm any good at it. So basically, I write mostly shorts. That collection of 50 years of stories is mostly shorts,
Right.
far and away. Uh, the So I'm it's in the first draft stage, but I have an ending I'm happy with, and I have a character I'm happy with, which is very unusual for the first time I go through something.
Right.
Um, and I'm, as most writers, I suspect, because I hear this so many times, I'm my harshest critic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and so I'll look at this, and I mentioned The Glass Child, for example, which is out. And I looked at that and I read it, and it's one of the reasons I had to get an editor for Red Eaters of Calico Bend, is
Yeah.
because there were so many things I caught in there that an editor probably would have caught. And I wish I could put in a new one. And of course, Amazon and Ingram both allow us to do that.
Yeah.
We can create a new draft and put it out as a second edition or something like that.
Yeah.
But that taught me a valuable lesson. Uh, And so that's, I think I went past the question. I've got the first draft done, and I'm hoping it's one that touches people.
Good, good. All right. Um, so I want to ask a little bit about outside, and we know you do some music, so let's talk about that.
Mhm,
But I know that
mhm.
you're working still. Um,
Yes.
you have other hobbies. So what takes up the time? What revolves around outside of your writing? What else do you like to do? Tell us a little bit.
Uh,
One of the things I love about this is that we are bombarded with AI, and
mhm,
interviews give us a chance to actually meet humans that
mhm.
write, and we get to know them. So what else do you got going on in the world around you?
I love critters. So we have 5 dogs.
Nice.
We have 3 chickens,
Okay.
and my wife, more than me, has a horse, but we do have a horse. We adopted an old former, trail horse, one that would ride people around. We rescued him. Almost all of the dogs are rescues, and we take care of the critters. So I try to get exercise in as much as I can. So I'm under doctor's care for an issue. And so I need to get to the gym like 3 times a week and try to walk the dog at least 5 times a week. And I'm not always successful because I can always find excuses not to, especially after a day of work, but I do that. To the music, I'll focus on that for a moment if I would. Most of the things we mentioned in the pre interview, I also do that. So I play the stuff that I have grown up with. Gordon Lightfoot, John Denver, Paul Simon, as you mentioned, some of the rock bands. I tend to play those more than anything else. Like my reading, my musical tastes are varied. There isn't a thing I can't listen to. It just depends on my mood.
Yep.
So, but I don't try to play things I clearly don't have a talent for, and I'm not entirely sure I have a talent for anything. I just assume that if it comes out like you said, good example, you just get out there and play and have fun, and that's all I'm about.
Yeah.
And if I can get away with this anecdote, my dad was a guitar player, sort of. So, like most of us, he would play after work and he would do his best, but he wasn't very good, and nobody cared.
Right.
So, when he would get out his Martin, which it took him years to pay for, he would play and he was choppy and he didn't have a singing voice. And people would sit around and I'd play with him, friends would play with, and nobody cared. They
Yeah.
were having fun. They were enjoying company and they were enjoying the inputs of other people. And that's what I take into it. I'm a better player than he was, but that's a, that depends. Because when we talk about if you're any good or not, when somebody asks me that, and if they ask me if my writing's any good, if they ask me if the music's any good, because I do write songs, I tell them that's not up to me to decide. It's in the beholder. If
Yeah.
I write something and you like it, then I'm good.
Yeah.
And if I play something and you enjoyed it, then I'm good.
Yeah.
If you didn't, then not so good.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It really is. And the smaller communal moments are actually more solid. I mean, I used to do drum circles with the Grateful Dead, kind of stuff where we have these 50 people sitting around beating on tambourines and beating on drums. And was it good? No, but it was like a spiritual moment because you were with so many
Mhm.
people doing the thing. And sometimes the groove would hit and you could feel it sort of rhythm around there, and then we'd lose it and move on. And it didn't matter because it was doing it that made, as a group, that made the huge thing. And the same when you're doing small, I told you, me and my friend used to play.
Mhm.
Were we going to be, rock stars? No, you
No,
know, but we were going
no.
to, but we enjoyed those moments and those times. So definitely it. All right. So last quick thing before we, because we're getting close to 15, you've got a busy life. I'm sorry, with work, commuting to doing all the things, you want to do. Sounds like you got some animals to feed and to care for. And I mean, we have 3 cats, and we have our feeding times between me and my wife, who feeds
Sure.
when. Um, and that alone is a project, washing the bowls, get this, yada yada. So we have all these things going on. Where do you find the time? We have probably some writers will come on here and look at this. Where do you find time in that busy life to write? Is it you have a certain time every day, you do it a little bit every day, you only do it on the weekends? Do you have any schedule, any tips? Anything you do?
Um, I actually can vary it depending on what's going on at that moment. So I'm probably not the best one to give advice in this realm, but I'm
Uh-huh.
going to try. Right when the mood hits you, when you feel something coming, and at least make a note of yourself. So recently, I introduced you to one of my characters, Alex Sinclair,
Yeah.
and I was because of the treatment I'm under. Sometimes I wake up while I'm wide awake at night, and I woke up with like this sudden idea of a great story in my view that I could include him in, and this one's going to wind up being novel length, I think. So I grabbed my iPhone and I started talking into the recorder. Now I know people do this. We've had the little tape recorders all this time, and then I put it down, and then I go to work, and then I come home that afternoon, and if it's not a gym day, uh, well, and to be fair, I get off at 4 o'clock. I go to the gym 3 days a week. I walk the dog. He's right there. Every other day. And as soon as I get home, I sit back down. And I'm in a relationship where I have that space that I can close the door. I don't even have to close the door. If I'm in this room by myself and they're not hearing anything out of me, they know I'm writing.
Right.
But I try to write something every day, but I don't force it. So I've had days when I've gone by and people say, well, let's write 1,000 or 2,000 words a day. Keep a free flowing journal. And I'm not saying that those things don't work. What works for me is that as soon as I have an idea, I get it recorded because I'm scatterbrained. I'm getting older and things are falling out and falling apart. And so I get it noted somewhere and then I get to work on it and try to establish it a little further as soon as I can, maybe even do an outline of a short. And that way, if I come back to it, I'll know where I was. You and I talked about working in IT and doing coding. The idea that we would create a code, and one of the things we were probably both trained to do is put comments in your code because you wrote the code and you may know what you were thinking then, but 6 months from now, when you have to look at that code again, you may not know. Take notes on what you're doing, put in what you were thinking because you may be thinking something entirely different in a week, 2 weeks, 6 months,
Yeah.
a year. So, but write when you can. Do a schedule. I agree with that, but I can't always do that, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it hits you, if you can sit down and start writing, do it. If you can't, then make notes and do it when you can.
Yeah. I have spots all around me. There's you know, a piece of paper that you guys can't see, but that I
Mm-hmm.
keep right in front of my laptop. So even if I'm talking to you and I think of something, I use pencils because I can erase. I will
Mm-hmm.
scratch a note down here. And later on I'll be like, sidekick the voice.
Aha.
And then it'll come to me what I meant by it. But it'll take me a little while to wonder what that quick little jot was. But I always
Mm-hmm.
have rotating papers, stuffed under half my laptop so that I can scribble a note and, translate them later on into a project. So being able to put something somewhere is the world. So,
Exactly.
all right. Well, we have reached a good little bit over 15 minutes. David, it
Oh, I'm sorry.
has been absolutely fabulous to sit here and get to
You too.
meet you, know you, and yes, and I'm looking forward to definitely publishing more of your shorts because some of the stuff is just amazing
Thank
writing.
you.
So that's just my personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion, and my opinion is my opinion and varies from someone
Mm-hmm.
else's, but nonetheless, I appreciate it. And the nice part is some of the pieces that have been chosen were not chosen by me. Were actually chosen by a different editor who read
Mm-hmm.
the stuff and had a similar opinion. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's just two opinions, that's all we got today. But that's okay. David, thank you so
Mm-hmm.
much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Bye.
and bye.